Hello there. Well, it's been roughly 200 hours since the last time I had any Xanax. And I thought about doing this before, but when I don't think anybody believes anything anymore. Even they don't even believe what they see anymore because technology has advanced to the point where we can make almost any illusion on video look real. But I thought just for the fuck of it, I would show you when I talk about how I got extra disadvantages as far as quitting benzos. I would show you some of those disadvantages. So this is what my this ain't that, maybe it won't look that bad, I don't know. I'm sure it won't look as bad as it feels, but this is what my left foot looks like. It's kind of hard to do. I don't know if you can see that. I don't really have a lot of flexibility in the toes, and as far as the calf muscle, there really is no calf muscle to speak of, which is not, a lot of people have slender legs that are still strong, but they actually took a tape measure and they put a tape measure around this calf muscle, and then they put a tape measure around this calf muscle, which this used to be my good leg, and there was like a 3 or 4 inch difference. Like there's just nothing, just like nothing here. I'm a pretty big guy, so the bone like goes all the way down to here, and the issue I got with this leg is the quality of the calf muscle has totally changed. And I don't know what this is about right here, this bruise or whatever, but I had some kind of something called a Baker's cyst developed behind the knee, and it burst, and all this fluid went through my leg. And you have 2 muscles in your gastrocnemius, your calf muscles, and the inner one is just like a cord. So I basically have 2 bad legs, which is why I've been falling down like, oh, all the time here lately. It's like I'm reduced to a walker and a cane at all times. And it's kind of funny that I caught the flu on the 2nd, and shit, my head's not clear, but that's, like I said, almost 200 hours without Xanax, just relying on minimal doses of Valium. You probably can't see it. I got hairy legs, but I got this phenomenon called petechiae too, which is just like weird little spotting that goes up and down the leg. And the foot, yeah, this foot here is something else. I don't think I can do like a reverse angle, or like what the bottom of it might look like. I don't know what you can see of it, or I don't know even if you would care to see of it, but I'll warn people that are looking at this ahead of time that it might be gruesome. There might not even be enough light in here to even see what's going on. I tried, I put a little extra light in there. Anyways, let me see if I can pull this off with a minimal amount of decency. I didn't bother to turn on the Blue Yeti microphone. Oh, here I am. And there's a nice bright light for you that you don't need. And there's still light coming in from the outside. But, so anyways, the left leg used to be my bad leg. So I used to have to rely on the right leg. And this has been going on for 2 years. And as usual, I don't get the results that I want with doctors. So I've had this bad leg for about as long as I've had my Xanax problem. And I've been shot up in the knee with cortisone, and I've been given oral steroids, and they were trying to treat the symptoms and stuff. But I was really looking to that, forward to that appointment on the 4th. But on the 2nd was flu day. And on the 4th, I didn't even know who the hell I was, as I already explained in another video. And so now I got two bad legs. But I used to be able to like count on this right leg. And that's why I can't really ride my electric bike to get around anymore. And if this doesn't really show up, or whatever, I won't bother you with it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a lot of shame. I just have to deal with a lot of extra stuff, and I think it's kind of gross when people do stuff like that. There's plenty of videos on here of people doing gross stuff, and I'm like, why would you do that? But this is part of my deal of why it's been so hard to get off of Xanax for me, is because I have extras. I have extra icing on that cake, and it puts an edge on what that feels like in my legs. It puts an edge on all that. And you don't got to feel, you feel about me any way you want to feel about me. I ain't looking for pity, sympathy. I won't never take a fucking dime off of nobody from any of this. It's like I told my neighbor. My neighbor said something about Xanax, and I'm like, no trades, no money, no nothing. I said, you want to try them? I'll give you one to try, but I'll never sell you one. And I got probably $500 worth of it around here. And because I couldn't live with myself if I did that. Um, anyways, I don't really like the neighborhood that I'm living in very much anymore, especially. It was 25 degrees outside, and we got a wheelchair ramp going out there, and there's snow and shit out there. And one of my neighbors is in a wheelchair, and he goes wheeling down that ramp. And I'm sitting in the house looking at a replay of a football game that I had already seen. And I don't hear him coming back up, because the way he gets up is he grabs a hold of the railings and like pulls himself up, and he has like special gloves that he uses, and he pulls himself back up to the railing and stuff. So I'm not hearing anything for a while, and it's like 25 degrees out with the wind blowing. I didn't know it was that cold out, but there was snow out there and stuff. And the snow and a little bit of ice was preventing him from getting the wheelchair close enough to the ramp so that he could use his arms and pull himself up. So, I look out the window and I take a look, and I'm like, he's just sitting out there, and there's people out there. Well, what kind of world is this we're living in nowadays? There's people out there. Do they think he's out there and, trying to catch some sun? And nobody's helping this dude. So I open the door, and I'm shirtless, as always. And I'm like, hey man, you need some help? And he goes, yeah, I do. And I said, I'll be out in a minute. He said, you think you can handle it? And I said, I don't know, but we're going to find out. So I go out there on my useless legs with a cane in the snow, very carefully, one step at a time, walk down the steps, because I ain't fucking with that ramp. And then I walk in the snow, because if you're me, you know this. Snow on grass has a lot more traction than snow on cement, or street, or anything like that. Snow actually gives you a little bit of traction. So I walk down there, and he says, I can't get to the ramp. I just need somebody to push me as far as the ramp, because he had forgotten to bring his cell phone out there, so he would have been stuck out there. So, and that would have been fine with the neighbors. Well, anyway, while I'm limping around there with my cane, some guy comes riding by on a bicycle and just rides by both of us. Just like, it's normal. Some guy in a wheelchair sitting out there in 25-degree weather. I mean, he's on a bicycle and he's got a Bluetooth thing in his ear. and having a conversation. He's like, fuck them people. Fuck them cripples. So, anyways, I get behind him on the wheelchair, and I forget how strong people get upper body wise when their legs are all fucked up, which I should know personally what that's about. But so he just like just get me to the ramp because I thought I might have to push him all the way up the ramp. I didn't think I could do that. So I push him up to the ramp and he grabs a hold of it and he doesn't say I got it or anything like that. He just pulls with them super strong arms and I'm still pushing on the wheelchair. Down I go. Bang! And I hear somebody say, "You need any help? You gotta be careful out here today." Motherfucker watched the whole thing. He could have done it. He could have helped that guy out. Care about it one way or another. I can't believe people. I just can't. I just can't believe how people act. But anyways, if that didn't show up or whatever, like I got, it looks pretty gross to me. That's the first time I've ever shown my foot on camera, and I usually just keep socks on my feet all the time to try to help me forget that they exist. When I first had that problem with my left foot, I wouldn't even touch it. I literally would not touch it. Somebody else would wash it, have to wash it for me. I would not accept it as part of my body. I actually made a video on another account talking about that. It's oh, dissociation is part of the phrase, but they have like a phrase for it when somebody disowns a part of their body, and it's like considered a mental disorder or whatever. But I would not touch. I wouldn't wash it. I wouldn't touch it. It was just so painful, and that's how I found out I had CRPS. Is it turned such a weird color of purple, brown, black. It almost turned black. I'm like, yeah, this looks like it's gonna kill me or something like that. So, this was in 1987, and I went to the in an ambulance, and then they diagnosed me with what they then called RSD, what they later called RSDS, reflex sympathetic dystrophy syndrome, and which is now called CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome. And that's why I am still very angry over going through that 5-hour bone scan test, which is supposed to be the definitive diagnostic tool after having this supposed disease for 32 years and having been treated for it with serious procedures like ganglionic nerve blocks in the spine and shit like that. And, having it been accepted by the medical community for years that I had this. It's just in my record. And then I go to pain management, and this guy's like, not, he's like, I want you re-diagnosed. He's like, those were primitive diagnostic tools they had back then. So he puts me through this bone scan thing, and then the bone scan comes back inconclusive. Which I suppose means you might have it, you might not have it. We don't know. But what that means to a doctor is we ain't treating you for it. We're going to give you gabapentin, which my primary caregiver gave me 3 years ago. Didn't do shit. So I got the other video with the gigantic bottle of that. So I'm getting into repeats territory. But yeah, I took a spill pretty bad out there in that snow pushing that wheelchair. I must have found that patch of ice that was keeping that guy from getting the wheelchair up onto the ramp. But yeah, I'll never sell benzo, man. I don't care how many of them things I have. You gotta have morals, and you gotta have some morals. I mean, I don't remember ever selling pills to anyone, or selling drugs to anyone. I'd sell other stuff, but not anything that's could put somebody through what I've been through for the last 3 years. But yeah, I reckon about in 3 hours it'll be 200 hours with no Xanax and minimal volume. I had some fun last night. I had some fucking. I dreamed my sister died last night. And had all these real crazy ass dreams, and I had like 101 pulse one day when I was just laying in bed. I'm like, I don't know what the hell this is about. I mean, I wasn't even moving. I just had like, I was like, is this anxiety? Is this a withdrawal symptoms? What is this? But my regular heart rate is 80, and I had 101, and I did it twice to make sure. I'm like, because I felt really weird, and I took a blood pressure pill, and then I wrote some stuff because expressing yourself always good. Now, I'll put a disclaimer on this video if my feet look especially gross when I replay this back to myself. Um, but yeah, if I can quit this, I ain't no special human being, Superman, obviously. If I can quit uh, benzos with a foot like that and legs like that, not being able to wear a shirt, and the treatment I get from the medical community and all the nonsense I got to go through, you can do it too. And I am not no Superman. I am not, I have so many kryptonites you can't even count them all, man. I'm afraid of spiders. Yeah, I'm afraid of spiders. I'm afraid of large crowds. Uh, Pretty women sometimes scare the fuck out of me. Not so much anymore because I know I don't have no shot. But back when I used to have a shot, it's like I think of all these brilliant things to say in my brilliant mind, and I think it's fair for me to say that I'm articulate and clever, and at least somewhat skilled with words. Go up and I would say the stupidest goddamn thing imaginable. And I'm like, that didn't go well at all. Or you're like, you got this whole thing planned out in your head, and you go up there and you just say like, hey, how you doing tonight? It's just it's a moron. You know, it's just something about beautiful women used to turn me into a moron all the time. Or like I'd be sitting there. I can remember I'd be sitting there. You know, I remember this woman's name. Her name was Blankenship. But when I was talking to her, and I was like, 10 minutes before I realized, like, not only is she not making any sense, but she ain't the least bit interesting. But that's just guys for you, I guess. I don't know, or somebody that's sexually attracted. Forget we got a whole gender thing going on nowadays. So just somebody that's attracted to women. It's like what my nephew used to say. Sometimes you get around girls and you're just like, kind of turns you into a Neanderthal. You're like, your brain just blanks out. But yeah, I remember her name was Blankenship, and I guess I hadn't seen a woman that beautiful in a while, and I was just sitting there, and I was just like, it was literally 10 minutes of her talking about nothing, and I'm like, it took me 10 minutes to realize like, I don't know what this woman's talking about. It doesn't seem to be making any sense, and uh, yeah, it's almost like disorienting, you know. It's all very strange. But anyways, I'm gonna keep this one relatively short for me. And yeah, yeah, I might not even put it up if the foot thing doesn't really show up. The true, it looks like an impressionistic painting of a foot. It looks like a Pablo Picasso, a Pablo Picasso foot. It just doesn't even look right. Got no flexibility in the toes. I can't stand up on my toes anymore. I got that problem with my right leg now, which used to be my strong leg, and like this all happened pretty fast. Um, like within the last, I don't know. I would say my real trouble started 5 years ago with my legs, and as little as 9 years ago, I could walk 3, 4 miles with no trouble at all. And the heart trouble fed into that, because that. keeps you off your legs and keeps you from moving and stuff because you're worried about your heart. You got to prioritize. You're worried about your heart freaking out on you. You don't want to be walking though 3 or 4 miles. But anyways, um, I don't have any closer for this one. Um, I just I'm an impulsive cat sometimes, and I've never showed what CRPS looks like, and I probably maybe even didn't do it right this time. I don't know. I am not a tech guy. Clearly, I've been working on my engine book, and yes, I know that's offensive or whatever, but I'm working on my Native American book, and I made some real progress on it yesterday. I decided not to be a perfectionist about it, so I expect that to take no more than 2 weeks. And I worked out a system with it that seems to work for me at least. And so I was happy about that yesterday. I spent many, many hours doing that yesterday. And so that's good. Like you people tell me in the comments, you got to keep busy. Uh, you got to keep yourself distracted, I think is how one fellow puts it. But I had one more thing I was going to say, but it's just going to have to wait till next time. And I'll pop on again when it's 300 hours with no Xanax. And then at some point, right now, I'll just post, I'll just keep posting my current volume intake, and we'll see how that goes. I go into my psychiatrist guy who's got to get the link. That's 2 months of that. That's 2 months. This guy's left this hole in my wall. And I've been so focused on other things. I'm like, fuck the hole in the wall, man. I'm falling on my ass every damn day. And my legs don't work. And I'm like actually using a walker and shit. So like, I'm not going to like stress myself out with some asshole landlord that's leaving a hole in my wall. That's about, I don't know, 8 feet tall by maybe 18 inches wide. He just left it there. I could show you it, I guess. There. See the pipes and stuff. That's where you hear all the rushing water and stuff. And yeah, you see all the wiring, and it leads down into the basement, and it freezes my, a lot of cold air comes up through there, and it's January in Ohio. It's January in Ohio. And January in Ohio is never a party, and the winter has hit here. Let me see if I can get one more look at them ugly ass feet, just to see. The thing with the toes and the lack of movement in the toes, and is that type of deal. It affects all skin tissues. So it has this. It's just gross. It has this weird sloughing effect, like a snake shedding its skin. So I have to scrub the foot down, like exfoliate it periodically. So yeah, I'm a sexy beast, man. That's for sure. So I better be interesting. Yeah, I better be funny. I better be clever. But anyways, um, yeah, there's only so much you can do. You can see the hole in the ceiling up there. Wait a minute, well, you can see it. I don't know how. I'm not a tech guy. That's the problem. I'm even having trouble with the getting maximum effect out of the Blue Yeti. I'm doing pretty good for somebody in withdrawal as far as reading the book, but I'm not getting, I think, the maximum effect out of the Blue Yeti microphone. I don't have any patience to sit and look at an instruction video about how to get the best effect out of using that microphone yet. But I figure this is just practice anyway. I'm not very good at it yet, but if I keep trying and I keep reading and I keep, it's kind of like looking in the mirror when you go back and listen to yourself, and um, the thing with me is my internal clock is weird. So I think I am reading at a normal speed, but I'm reading fast. I might talk slow, but when I read, like read from a book or whatever, I read fast. So I almost feel like I have to read at mongoloid speed for it to sound right when I'm reading, you know. So it's like it sounds like I'm reading really slow to myself, but then when I listen back to it, I'm like, okay, that sounds pretty good. So I got like my internal clock there is kind of messed up. But yeah, um, as usual, I just like to gab. It's one of the few things I get to do on a consistent basis. Uh, that hole in the ceiling, that's my fault. Like I said, there was so much water laying up there, and I wanted to poke around in there to make sure it wasn't a burst pipe or something like that. So I poked that hole in there with a broom handle because I was going to poke up one of those hanging. That's a hanging ceiling. So I was just going to poke my way through and risk standing on a step ladder. This was a while ago, and look up in there to see what the hell exactly was going on. Because sometimes people just overflow shit, but sometimes a pipe bursts, and if it's a pipe burst, it's like a big emergency. You got to get the landlord here. He's got to shut the water off, or you're going to have a flood. You're actually going to have an actual flood inside your house. So that's why that hole's there. Um, yeah, I don't know. Can't really think of anything interesting to say. Hopefully that didn't sound too phony. Uh, what would be the word? Preachy? Maudlin? Pick a word you like about me saying that um, I gotta, if I can overcome this and me being a bit of a chicken, having all these problems, that you can overcome it too. I hope that doesn't sound bad or anything like that, you know. Um, that, but if you look up CRPS, if you're actually that curious about it, I would recommend having a barf bag. Well, if you like horror movies, you'll be fine. But yeah, if you look up other things of what that can look like sometimes, uh, be prepared. Like I was saying, it's hooked into my emotions. So when I admitted myself into the psychiatric unit last January, and I was exposed to all these people that had horrible, horrible stories, and there was all this emotion swirling around me, and I'm hearing all these things. I actually heard horror stories about. I talked to this girl that I'll never forget the picture that she wrote. It's just stuck in my head, or wrote that she drew. She was an artist, but she drew a picture, and it's just stuck in my head. It won't ever go away. And it was just a little tiny picture. It's like, why didn't you make it bigger and sell it? Because I can't get rid of it. I saw it once, and it's there, and I'm looking at it right now, and I can't get rid of it. But anyways, I talked to this girl, and she had a father that was used to discipline her brothers by taking them into the basement and beating them with 2x4s while she was. Listen, she got spared that because she was a goyle, but she had to listen to it, and she was all, she was all, messed up from it, of course. But that she could draw that painting. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, that was a year ago. I saw that, and I can see it just like I'm looking at my ugly face on this fucking monitor right now. So that thing had some kind of artistic value, but it was a little tiny. It was like that big. She just drew it in her book, and it was like about that big. I was like, man, I wonder if there's some way she can expand that, because I know this other guy that he did some time in jail for a reason I'm not going to tell you about. But in jail, he learned how to become an artist and draw, and he's able to sell some of his shit for like $500 a pop. I was thinking about commissioning him to draw me some pictures for my own novel that I got. If I get good enough at reading these novels and stuff, I should be able to read my own words a lot better than other people's words, because when I read other people's words, I want to rearrange them all the time. That's just the writer part of me. It's like I want to, like, well, this is better. It's automatic. It's like automatic in my brain. It's like my main problem when I have reading somebody else's book is like I threw in the word just. Like, he, instead of when he was a boy, I threw in when he was just a boy, because that's the way I would have wrote it. So that's one of my main problems. But I might commission this guy. He don't have much money right now, as the starving artists often are want to be in that situation, to draw pictures for me for like each segment of my book that have and, one thing I can say about my books, or my writing style, is like when I'm on here, ramble, 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 go this way, go that way, go that way. This was supposed to be a 10-minute deal. I don't do that shit when I write. When I write, it's to the point. It's minimalism. That's what I go for. Uh, the longest thing that I've ever written was like 224 to 250 pages, and depending upon which font you used or the size or whatever, because I printed it out a couple of times. But yeah, um, I feel pretty good. I don't feel physically good. I'm never gonna feel physically good with CRPS, but I feel pretty good emotionally about my benzo thing. And when I go in and see my psychiatrist guy who prescribed me the Valium, I'm going to write out my little chart the same as I did last time to him, or print it out and give it to him. And I'm going to ask him, am I doing this too fast? It's just like putting too much strain on me. But it's kind of funny. I got like half, they're orange. I got half an orange. Seeing is believing. I got my little pill cutter box here, right? Okay, you see that right there? That is half an orange Xanax. That's 25 milligrams of Xanax. These other two pills are Valium. That has been there now for 11 days. So I feel pretty good about that whole situation. And luckily for me, I don't get any enjoyment, any buzz. There's really no reason at all for me to take Xanax, except for to quell horrible, horrible withdrawal symptoms. And Valium doesn't cut out all of it, but it cuts out a lot of it. Because Valium is 10 times weaker, literally 10 times weaker than Xanax, but its half-life is longer. So, you know, um, that's what you want. So you don't get that drop off where you're just dropped off. It just goes out. Xanax just goes out of your system, and then you're like, you feel like you can't breathe. You know the deal. If you're watching this, you know the deal. So that would be my main recommendation to anybody that's a first timer being exposed to the entity called Steve, is get you a doctor and get you some Valium, and don't ever just drop off a Xanax. Like, that's the first advice I got. Like, you're not going to want to hear this, dude, but the only way you're going to quit this stuff is to go cold turkey. And I was like, yeah, that might be the only way I can quit living. It could kill me, but no, you don't do that. You at first I tried to taper down slowly just with the Xanax, and I had really good success with that. But as you know, my story, life intervened, and machetes, you know the story. Machetes, meth, landlord, family, blah blah blah. Life doesn't always go smooth, and that's the first time that I tried to do it, was that way. And then I'm like, I updosed so bad in October. I'm like, that's I, I took uh, actually 50 and a half. I did a recount. I took 50 and a half uh, half milligram pills in October. Okay, in January, and I believe it's the 12th. Does that sound right to you? Yeah, because my appointment's on the 14th. So yeah, today's the 12th. I took 50 and a half pills to get through October. It's January. I've taken 2 pills to get to the 12th. And if that's the last 2 pills of Xanax I ever take, I'm cool with that. I'll talk to my psychiatrist about it. I was lucky enough I didn't have to deal with the addiction part of it on top of the physical dependence. I have no desire to touch that shit ever again. Um, Unlike cigarettes, which I, I smoked a couple cigarettes a couple of days ago. Like in the last week, I smoked maybe 6 cigarettes, and I get no pleasure from that at all, except for the actual act of it, and the idea of it. It's just like it's in my head. That's where the addiction part happens, and when that's you know people mix those words up before. I don't even know if I want to start down this road again, but that's where people mix the shit up. They think even people that have like I know somebody that's taken drugs of all varieties and they still don't know the difference between um, psychological addiction and physical dependence. In other words, addiction and just dependence, because you can have both at the same time. And if I had both at the same time with Xanax, I wouldn't know what I would do. If I was wanting that little half a pill that's been in there for over 10 days, I don't know what I would do, because, I got that smoking addiction, and somebody comes here with a cigarette, and that monkey, he starts tapping me on the back of the head and smacking me with his little paws and wrapping his tail around my neck and choking me, saying, "Smoke, smoke, 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 smoke." And I was lucky enough, like, I can thank the YouTube community for that. That I was lucky enough that um, I saw videos about how bad this is for people. And I'm not talking about people who are addicts. I'm talking about just how bad it can be as far as the withdrawal, and how sometimes the withdrawal is an ongoing thing that just keeps going and going and going. And at that point, I had only experienced withdrawal minimally, because of I have a doctor, and now he put a sign up in his office that says, "Please allow 48 hours for any prescription refills." But he didn't have that up there a year ago. When I would run out of pills, when I would run out of Xanax, and I'd be calling them on the phone, and they'll be like, "Yeah, we'll get right on that." And then 48 hours later, I'm like, you know, just laying in bed a mess, and I really don't know what it had to do with anything, so I'm going to leave you now. And high five. That's 200 hours, roughly. Be 200 hours in a couple hours here. And it can be done, and you can do it. I can do it. And I'm nobody special. Uh, I'm just some 50-year-old man. Just a random dude living in a goddamn cold state, man. It is cold in here. And I got to get some. I think I'm going to get a friend to come over. I might talk to the land. I don't want to talk. I don't want to deal with the landlord, because I just don't want any additional stress. And he's literally left that like that for 2 months. So I might just call my friend up and offer him some money to come here with some duct tape and some cardboard and just duct tape it up for me temporarily, because I can't get on no ladder or step ladder to reach the ceiling part of it anyway. Um, and just duct tape it up to keep some of that cold air that's coming up from the basement. And making me have to use. I got 2 electric heaters in there, and making me use extra electricity. And as usual, I made a video that's 4 times longer than it needed to be. And I'll look back at it, and like I always do. And if I find it boring, stupid, maudlin, okay, I'm slurring my words. But I'll talk to my psychiatrist, and he'll be like, might be like, don't push yourself that hard. Take more volume. But I'm not taking that much volume. You might tell me, you can stay off of the Xanax. That's cool that you don't want that anymore, but take more volume. But yeah, sometimes all those fancy words that I know, they just don't come out. And I don't know if it's my thick tongue or my thicker head that's keeping them from coming out. But this is the part I always have trouble with, is the goodbyes. So this time I'm just going to say the word goodbye.